Sophia's email describes her frustration with the targets impacted by the change she's implementing. They refuse to participate in the change process, and they take way too much pleasure in complaining about it. Her question to me is, how can we get targets to accept accountability for understanding the change and making the personal decisions that they need to make? The first thing, Sophia, is that the targets need to understand that they have a key role. They need to make the change. That's what their responsibility is. Sponsors have to be actively engaged in the process as well, because they're responsible for engaging with those targets. They're responsible for leading the targets through the change process, leading the targets through their issues of resistance toward their position of acceptance. At the bottom of all this for targets is the fact that they are in control. They are responsible for making the decision to change or not to change. Sponsors have an equally important part of this process as well, because in their efforts to lead the change, one of the most important challenges they have is to make certain that the targets clearly understand what are the ramifications and potentially the consequences should they choose not to change. So why don't targets choose to participate? Why do they choose not to engage in the change process? Well, there are lots of reasons that could possibly be at the core of this. There are the key sources of resistance that are called out in the managed change methodology. They may not agree with the reason why the change has to happen. They may be so comfortable in the desired state that they're unwilling, for whatever reason, to make a change. When we talk to them about the desired state, they may not want to go there. They may not see it as a positive move. They may not see enough value in the effort it's going to take for them to get there. So they don't want to go. They may not want to go, which is a current state issue. They may not like where we're taking them, which is a desired state issue. Or when we share with them what the plan is to get through that gap, through that delta from the current state to the desired state, they may not appreciate, they may not engage in our solution, our how. How are we going to get there? They don't agree with the training plan. They're already overtaxed with so many other changes going on in the organization. They don't see the alignment between this change and everything else that they're being asked to do. So they have issues and concerns about the strategy we're going to follow. Similarly, they may not respect the change agent or the sponsor in their roles, and therefore have issues and concerns that change agent can actually implement this change, or that the sponsor can actually lead them through. They may have issues with the history of change, that they've been experienced so many times, they've experienced negative changes, they don't think this is going to work, they don't want to put any energy into it. Culture may be an issue as well. Does the organization actually demonstrate and reinforce the beliefs and behaviors that are necessary for this change to be successful? So many potential sources of resistance. It's our job to make sure we understand those sources of resistance and we try to move forward to mitigate them. So why don't targets take on that accountability? They don't like the change. They can't buy into it. They believe that it's the sponsor or the change agent's responsibility. The targets are accustomed to being spoon-fed, if you will, every detail. They're not accustomed to putting out any energy to get the information they need in order for them to make a decision. There's that entitlement that comes forward and is an expectation that we're going to help them. We're going to give them everything they need to be successful. Well, that's just not realistic. What we need to do is sponsors need to articulate and hold to their expectations. Here's what I want from you. Here's what we need to happen. And I need you to take on this approach. If that doesn't happen, there are really clear consequences, and the sponsor is comfortable in executing those consequences. They're not false. They're not false threats. They actually are realized. The change agents also need to include the targets in the process. Wherever there is an opportunity to bring the targets together, to have them contribute to the definition of the desired state, to the data collection and analysis of resistance, to the creation of communications, learning, reward, reinforcement, recognition solutions. The more involved we can bring the targets into the process, the more likely they are to embrace the change and take on their role. In the end, the target needs to feel as though they have some control and they can manage their destiny in the decisions that they're making.